Peace be upon you and welcome to a new episode. Wednesday, which corresponds to November 13th, 2024, in one of the most beautiful green villages in northern Iran, a village called Koshkadehan Fumanbag in Gilan province. This village that people visit to enjoy nature and tranquility. In this very village, a crime took place that shook all of Iran. It was noon. The house was completely quiet. There was no one there except the young lady of the house, a beautiful bride still in her 20s, with her long hair and sweet smile that used to light up the whole place. She was sitting in her home, feeling safe, relaxed, waiting for her husband to come back from work. Suddenly, the door opened. Someone entered the house. Someone who had a key. Not a stranger, not a thief, someone from the family. And just a few hours later, when the husband came back from work, he was faced with a terrifying scene. He found his wife, his love, the mother of his children, lying on the floor in a pool of blood. Her face was disfigured from the brutality of the blows. Her skull was crushed. Blood was everywhere. Who did this? Who could possibly hate this beautiful girl so much that they would kill her in such a savage way? The answer will shock you, because the killer wasn't a stranger at all. And before we start our story, don't forget to like and share the episode so it reaches as many people as possible. Look forward to a new episode every Saturday, Monday, and Wednesday. And without going into too many details, let's dive right into the heart of our story. To understand the brutal crime that happened, we have to go back in time a little, back to the life of the girl who was killed in this way. Sara Shamshadi was a young woman from the city of Fuman in northern Iran. She was still in her early 20s, a beautiful, polite, calm, and responsible girl. Everyone who knew her, whether friends or colleagues at work, described her the same way, a kind girl, always smiling, hardworking, and respectful. Sara had an older sister, and the two of them were extremely close. Her family loved her madly. She was the spoiled darling of the whole family. Sara wasn't just an ordinary girl who stayed at home. No, she was an independent, working woman. She was a professional seamstress. She worked in one of the biggest tailoring workshops in her city and was very skilled at what she did. People used to come from far away just so Sara could sew their clothes for them. She was famous for her precision and excellent taste. Sara had her own life, her own job, her own money, and her own independence. By every standard, she was a successful young woman. 2 years before the crime, Sara's life changed completely. One day, her cousin, a man named Hadi Rafik Dost, came and asked to marry her. Hadi was a good, respectable guy with a respectable job. He was a professional football coach. He owned a registered football academy called Namavaran Kaduz, and he was the head coach there. His team played in the National Youth League across Iran. In short, he was a successful and respected man in his field. But Hadi had a past. He had been married before to another girl who wasn't related to the family at all. It had been a love marriage. He had really loved her. But that marriage didn't last. After a short time, the two of them got divorced. After the divorce, Hadi's mother decided to step in. She said, "That's it. This time I'm the one who will choose for my son. I want him to marry a girl from the family, someone we know well, a decent and respectable girl." The mother searched and decided that the best possible choice was Sara. To the mother, Sara was the perfect candidate, a girl from the family, beautiful, hardworking, independent, respectable, and well known for her good character. The mother went to Sara's family and proposed the idea. When Sarah's family learned that Hadi was a respectable young man with a good job and that he was a relative, they agreed. Even though Sarah and Hadi were cousins, they spent time together before the marriage to get to know each other better. They spent nice time together and discovered that they could actually be happy with each other. There was understanding and mutual respect. After a period of engagement, the wedding took place, and the newlyweds began their new life. At first, everything was perfect. Sarah and Hadi were happy. There was love and respect between them. Sarah continued her work as a seamstress, and Hadi continued his job as a coach. The two of them were building their life together step by step. Sometime after the marriage, Sarah became pregnant and gave birth to a child, which brought even more joy and happiness to the home. But, as the saying goes, there is no smoke without fire. There was a problem that was growing day after day, and nobody was really paying attention to it. Or rather, everyone could see it but kept saying, "It's normal. It's just how things are." The problem was Hadi's mother, Sarah's mother-in-law. She had a big issue. She felt that Sarah had stolen her son from her. She felt that Hadi, who used to do nothing without asking her permission, now revolved completely around his wife. And that, in the mother's eyes, was a crime. She felt Sarah was controlling Hadi and pulling him away from her. Sarah, on the other hand, was doing her best to keep a good relationship with her mother-in-law. She respected her, visited her, spoke to her politely, and tried as much as she could to keep her happy. Hadi saw all of this and was extremely impressed by his wife's patience and respect toward his mother. That only made him love and respect her more and more. At some point, Sarah and Hadi decided to buy a house for themselves, a house that would be theirs, where they could live with their child. Sarah was working and had her own money. She helped her husband buy the house. They agreed and bought a nice house in a nice area. When it came time to register the house, Hadi did something that, from his perspective, was a beautiful gesture showing his love and respect for his wife. Hadi registered the entire house in Sarah's name. For Hadi, this was a heartfelt decision, one that showed love and respect. But for his mother, it was an earthquake. A short time after Hadi registered the house in Sarah's name, his mother found out about it, and when she found out, she lost it. The mother went to her son and made a huge scene. She told him, "Have you gone mad? You spent your whole life saving money, and now you put everything in your wife's name? If she turns out like the previous one and leaves you, what will you do? End up on the street?" Hadi tried to explain that Sarah wasn't like the previous one, that he trusted her, that she had helped buy the house, and that it was her right. But the mother wouldn't listen. She was convinced that Sarah had schemed the whole thing and had tricked Hadi into making that decision. After that, the mother went to Sarah herself and caused an even bigger fight. She accused her of being a fraud, of exploiting Hadi, and of bewitching him into making that choice. Sarah tried to make her understand that it had been Hadi's own decision, that she had indeed contributed to buying the house, and that she only wanted to live a happy life with her husband. But the mother wouldn't listen. She was convinced that Sarah was shameless and now even claiming that the money was hers. This situation created a huge rift in the relationship between Sarah and her mother-in-law. The rift, which had existed for a while but had been hidden, now became clear and deep. The mother began to hate Sarah in an obsessive way. She started seeing her as the enemy who had stolen her son and his life from her. Days and months passed, and the relationship between Sarah and her mother-in-law kept getting worse day by day. But Sarah believed things would improve, and that time would fix everything. She was wrong. On Wednesday, November 13th, 2024, in the morning, Hadi woke up as usual, went to work, and was happy. He was looking forward to finishing the day and returning home to his wife and child. Hadi had no idea that this would be the last time he would ever hear his wife's voice. After Hadi left, Sara stayed at home. She had housework to do, and her young child was with her. But at some point around noon, Sara's child went to his grandmother's house, Hadi's mother. The child loved visiting his grandmother, and the grandmother loved seeing her grandson. The child went to his grandmother's house and stayed there for a short while. During that time, the grandmother learned that Hadi was not at home. She knew Hadi had gone to work and that Sara was alone in the house. At that moment, a devilish plan began to form in the mother's mind. The mother decided to go to Sara's house. Of course, she had a key to the house. In Iranian culture, it's common for a mother-in-law to have a key to her son's house. The grandmother and the child went to Sara's house. She opened the door with the key and entered. Sara, when she saw her mother-in-law coming in, was a little surprised but welcomed her. The grandmother, with full cunning, started talking to Sara normally at first, but then she began bringing up the house issue again. Sara tried to avoid the topic, but the mother kept pushing and pushing until it turned into a verbal fight. The mother started accusing Sara of being a fraud and of tricking Hadi. Sara, who was tired of these accusations, began to respond and defend herself. But the mother didn't want to listen. The mother, whose heart was filled with jealousy and hatred, began losing control of herself. The young child, Sara's son, was in the room and was seeing and hearing everything. The innocent child was scared and didn't understand what was happening. At one moment, the grandmother said to Sara, "Come to the room so we can talk. Let the child not hear." Sara, who wasn't expecting anything bad, got up and followed her mother-in-law into the room. And here, the disaster began. The grandmother, before entering the room, had passed by the storage area, or the room where the household tools were kept, and taken something with her. She took an iron rod, a long, heavy rod, the kind used for beating carpets or rugs. Sara entered the room and stood waiting for her mother-in-law to speak. But the mother didn't speak. The mother raised the iron rod, and with all her strength, struck Sara on the head. The blow was extremely powerful. Sara fell to the floor from the shock and pain. Blood started pouring from her head. But the mother didn't stop. The mother kept hitting. She was striking with all the anger and hatred that had been building up inside her for years. Sara tried to defend herself. She tried to protect her head with her hands, but it was no use. The blows were too strong. After a while, Sara could no longer move at all. Blood was flowing from her everywhere. Her skull was crushed, and her face became unrecognizable from the severity of the beating. The mother, when she saw Sara lying on the floor, stood watching her. Sara was still breathing. She was still alive, but barely. The mother, after doing what she did, left the room. She left Sara on the floor, struggling to breathe and bleeding. The mother locked the door from the outside. She locked it tightly. Why? So that if Sara regained consciousness or tried to call for help, she wouldn't be able to get out or scream. The mother wanted to make sure Sara would die. The mother, with complete cold-bloodedness, turned to the child and said, "Come on, sweetie, let's go home. Mama Sara is tired and sleeping. Let her sleep." The mother took the child and went back to her own house. She left Sara alone, dying, bleeding, behind a locked door. Sara lay there for hours, alone, trying to breathe, trying to stay alive, but to no avail, until her heart stopped. In the afternoon, Hadi finished work and returned home. He opened the front door and went in. He called out to Sara. No answer. Hadi was surprised. He thought maybe Sara was sleeping or in the bathroom. He went looking for her. He went to the room and found the door locked. He tried to open it. The door was locked from the outside. Hadi felt something was wrong. He opened the door quickly and entered the room. What he saw was a nightmare. Hadi was shattered. He couldn't believe his eyes. He tried to wake her, but Sara had been dead for hours. After a few moments, he snapped out of the shock and decided to call the police. The police arrived quickly at the crime scene. The investigators and the forensic team started examining the place carefully, searching for any evidence that could help them identify the killer. The first thing they noticed, there was no sign of forced entry or break-in. The doors were intact, the windows were intact, none of the locks were broken. That meant the killer had a key to the house. The second thing they noticed, nothing was stolen. Sara's jewelry was still there, the money was still there. All the valuable items in the house were untouched. That meant the crime wasn't robbery. The crime was personal. The killer came specifically to kill Sara. He didn't want money or jewelry. He wanted Sara herself dead. The investigators started asking themselves, who could possibly hate Sara that much? In family-related murders, the first person investigators usually suspect is the husband. They went to Hadi and started asking him questions. Where were you today? When was the last time you spoke to your wife? Were there any problems between you? Hadi said, I love her, and there were never any problems between us. The investigators decided to verify Hadi's story. They went to the football club and spoke to his colleagues and assistants. Everyone confirmed that Hadi had been at the club all day, from morning until he went home. They also checked the club's security cameras, and sure enough, Hadi was there the whole time. The investigators became certain Hadi was innocent. He wasn't present at the time of the crime, and he had no reason to kill the wife he loved. So, if it wasn't Hadi, then who? The investigators went back to the facts they had. The killer had a key to the house, no break-in or forced entry. The crime wasn't robbery. Nothing was stolen. The crime was extremely personal. The killer beat Sara with extreme brutality. The killer knew Hadi wasn't home at the time of the crime. Who could have all that information? Who had a key to Sara and Hadi's house? Who knew Hadi's schedule and exactly when he would be home and when he wouldn't? The answer was obvious. Someone from the very close family. The investigators started thinking, who in the family could have a problem with Sara? And that's when suspicion began to point toward one person, Hadi's mother, the mother-in-law. The investigators started asking the neighbors and relatives about the relationship between Sara and her mother-in-law. And the neighbors and relatives said some very interesting things. The neighbors said the relationship between the two women was not good. There was constant tension. The mother was always visiting her son and trying to interfere in his life, and there were many arguments between her and Sara. The relatives said the mother was jealous of Sara. She felt Sara had stolen her son from her, especially after she learned that Hadi had put the house in Sara's name. The investigators grew more and more suspicious of the mother. They decided to keep her under observation and continue the investigation. From the very first day the crime was discovered, the mother's behavior was strange. When the mother arrived at the crime scene after the police, she was unnaturally calm. She was cold. She was speaking quietly and calmly. The investigators felt something was wrong. The mother was acting as if she were playing a role, trying to appear sad and shocked, but the performance wasn't convincing. The investigators decided to keep the mother under surveillance and continue the investigation. They went to check the security cameras in the neighborhood and the area around the house. And they found something very important. The cameras recorded the mother on the same day of the crime, at a time very close to the time of the murder, walking toward Sara's house. The cameras also recorded that the mother was holding the hand of a small child. Later, the cameras recorded the mother and the child returning after a while. That was strong evidence. The mother had been at Sarah's house at the time of the crime, or very close to it. But the investigators wanted stronger evidence. They wanted a confession. The investigators thought, who was actually inside the house at the time of the crime? The answer was the child, Sarah's little boy, who was only 5 years old. The investigators decided they had to talk to the child, but they knew it had to be done with extreme care. The boy was very young and traumatized. They couldn't pressure him or scare him. They brought in a child psychologist who specialized in working with children. The psychologist started asking the boy in a very gentle and indirect way about the day of the crime. The child said in his simple words, "Grandma hit Mama with the iron stick, then she locked the door." That was the testimony that revealed everything. Now the investigators had an eyewitness, a small child, but an eyewitness. The police immediately arrested the mother-in-law and began intensive questioning. At first, she denied everything, playing the innocent, crying and saying, "My heart can't take it." But when they confronted her with the child's words and the security footage, she broke down. She started getting angry and shouting. Then, in one moment, she exploded and confessed. She confessed that she had killed Sarah out of jealousy and years of built-up hatred, and she gave all the details of the beating. The interrogation went on for days. They examined the body at the Forensic Medical Center to determine the exact weapon and cause of death, and they also checked phones and messages to see if there had been any prior planning. The investigators were shocked by the mother's cold-bloodedness and the fact that she showed no remorse at all for what she had done. The mother was arrested immediately and placed in pretrial detention until the trial begins. But the story didn't end there. After the mother confessed to killing Sarah, the investigators decided to dig deeper into her past, and what they discovered was terrifying. Some local sources in the Fuman area claim that during the interrogation, the mother confessed to 2 other murders. One of them was the murder of her own husband. According to these sources, the mother admitted that many years earlier she had killed her husband, Hadi's father. At the time, the man's death had been recorded as a heart attack. No one suspected the mother, and no one investigated. But now, after confessing to killing Sarah, the mother claimed she had killed her husband as well. So far, the police have not issued any official statement confirming or denying this. The investigation is still ongoing. But if these claims are true, it means this woman is not just a one-time killer. It means she is a serial killer who eliminated anyone who stood in her way or threatened her control over her son's life. On Friday, November 15, 2024, Sarah's body was buried in the cemetery of her village. The funeral was an incredibly sad scene. Thousands of people from the village and neighboring towns attended. Everyone was in shock at the horrific crime that had taken place. After the burial, the case took on a very complicated legal dimension. According to Iranian law, which is based on Islamic Sharia, in cases of intentional murder, the blood guardians, the victim's family, have the right to decide whether to demand qisas, execution of the killer, or to pardon the killer. In Sarah's case, the primary blood guardians are her father and mother. From day one, they announced that they want qisas. They want the woman who killed their daughter to be executed. That is their legal and religious right. But there's a problem. Sarah had a son, a little boy who is 5 years old. Under the law, that boy is also a blood guardian of his mother. That means when he grows up, when he reaches 18, he will have the right to decide whether he agrees to the execution or not. And here comes the huge moral and legal dilemma. Iranian law says that Hadi, as the father and legal guardian of his minor son, can speak on behalf of the boy in this matter. But Hadi is also the son of the killer. So can he really agree to his own mother's execution? This is an incredibly difficult question, and Hadi himself doesn't know what to do. The whole situation is extremely complicated from every angle. As of now, the case is still in court. The mother is still in pretrial detention. The investigation continues, and the official trial has not yet begun. That's what happened, guys. A story that reminds us we have to resolve family disputes before they get out of hand. What do you think? Can jealousy really go this far? Write in the comments. And with that, today's episode comes to an end. If this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything new. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.